We gotta batten down the hatches. We gotta close the place up, lock it down. We're hitting the road. We're getting out of town. And we're gonna go to the lake. Yay. With the boat for the very first time. No, not that boat. That boat.
She's always photo bombing me, video bombing me.
What? She's awake now. All right, we are on the road. We are on the way to the lake finally. We literally stopped at like 5 different stores, bro. It was ridiculous because we needed bait, we needed drinks and snacks, and then we forgot bait, so we stopped at another store. Then I had to stop at AutoZone to get a lock for my trailer, and then gas, and then oh my god, we're finally on the damn road towards the lake. Next destination is the loading dock. Is that what it's called? Unloading dock? Marine dock? Boat dock? Boat dock. Here we are. This is the point where we gotta spend money. Damn it. Thought we were gonna get to do this shit for free. Water! I freaking see it, baby! Hell yeah! It was $11 to get in. Can't complain. Burrow crossing. Watch out for donkeys. Alright, where's the boat ramp? Straight.
Come this way with me. Come on. They're gonna get wet. Yeah. You're definitely gonna get wet.
Jumping over is too far. I don't mind.
It's funny. Lily, take camera.
Hi guys. This is fun. Oh god.
Here, go.
Yeah, I'm seasick.
Go find a seat. You're fine.
Don't I need one of the life jackets?
You're fine, bud.
Okay. I'm so happy I have my braces on. I'm so happy I have my ankle braces on, bro.
You're doing it.
I know. It's scary as fuck. I'm just afraid of hitting somebody else's boat, you know what I mean?
First time, babe.
Yeah.
Good job. How do we get Braven on the boat now?
Oh.
Tell him to come.
Swim?
I was say, tell him to come swim.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seasick. Oh, shit. Shingles as in fun.
I'm caught in a boat! Well, Braven's helping me caught in the boat. He's having to continuously pump. I don't know why, but yeah. This is scary as shit, bro. Good Lord. Yeah, we're just gonna find somewhere to drop the anchor and do some fishing. All right there, cowboys. it was a terrible experience. It was actually a really, I think the wind is really bad, so I got to get down here. It was a pretty good experience. The boat went really bad though, so now my lens is dirty. Jesus Lord. It started having problems like staying running, so you had to constantly pump this ball back here. I got to figure that out. And in the process of trying to start the boat repeatedly, we killed the battery. So of course I had problems with fuel pump and dead batteries on the boat. It can't be a deadbeat garage project without having problems with fuel pump and battery. But we'll get it figured out. We just got the boat loaded back up, and now we're gonna get everything strapped down and get back on the road to the house. I definitely need to get this thing running better before we ever come back out here again. Overall, absolute great experience. Definitely know what we need to improve on.
Like this.
Will it?
No. Yeah. You're pretty close. You're like an inch.
All right, we got this damn boat home. So before going, I kind of had a feeling we're gonna end up having problems with this because sitting in the driveway, I wasn't able to get it to idle. But I had a theory. So whenever you pump this ball right here, so the fuel line, it has this pump ball. So before you start it, you're supposed to like prime it, you could say. You just pump this thing a few times to get the fuel up to the motor. And then you fire it up. But I noticed that all of these hoses just had zip ties on them, and some of them were missing because the zip ties were really brittle and they're just breaking off. So whenever you would pump this, you could feel that fuel was going through it, and you could feel when fuel wasn't going through it, you know what I mean? And for the most part, fuel wasn't going through it. I couldn't get the fuel to pump right there. So I was under the impression that it was sucking air in somewhere, and that would explain that, is where there wasn't hose clamps, there was just broken zip ties, you know, well, brittle zip ties that were breaking off. And you were able to see that it was like dripping fuel and stuff. So one of the things that we did on our way to the lake is stopped and got hose clamps, and I put hose clamps right there hoping that was going to solve our issue, you know what I mean? Well, unfortunately it didn't. So the problem we ran into is we couldn't keep this thing running. For the most part, whenever it was running, either Braven or Jessica was back here pumping this the entire time to keep it running. But that's not very consistent and reliable to keep it running. Like it kept dying, you know what I'm saying? So when it would die, we kept trying to start it, and eventually the battery was dead. So now, not only is the battery dead, but we couldn't just get a jump start because we were also struggling with keeping it running. So yeah, it was just a mess, bro. So we just kind of floated out there. We threw our lines in the water and stuff, you know, pulled some chips out, drank some drinks, and just chilled, you know. We had the bimini top, thankfully, so we're in the shade, and we just kind of relaxed for a little while, floating on the water. But we were out there for, I want to say, close to 2 hours whenever we started deciding like we should probably start seeing if somebody will help us, you know. And I was yelling out at people on the lake, and like even people that would actually hear us, like screaming and saying, hey, we need help, hey, you know, they would see us, ignore us, and go the opposite direction. Nobody wanted to help, bro. So we ended up getting close kind of to land, and I swam over and then used a rope to pull the boat over. And then Braven hopped out, and he went walking, just asking people with boats if they'd be willing to tow us back to the dock, in which finally found a guy who towed us back. So yeah, that's kind of how that day went. Dude, if I'm being honest with you, it was a pretty awesome experience. Just like driving all the way out to Lake Havasu in a Suburban and breaking down. You know, it's just that element of not knowing if you're ever going to make it home that just kind of makes things exciting, you know? Anyhow, I don't really have a whole lot that I can do to this thing right now. As far as, you know, like rebuilding carburetors or replacing parts or anything like that. But we can kind of poke at it and stuff. I do want to show you guys what it is that I found before we even took this thing on the lake. All right, so this pump ball and hose right here, this fuel line, it's running through the boat. On the other side of this, there's a line and it runs down to the fuel tank. And then obviously this side runs over to the engine. Well, this breaks off and it goes to the 3 carburetors inside of there. But if you disconnect this, all right, so it's getting fuel through it right now. But what I was experiencing before is, you see, now I'm pumping it and it's not getting fuel. You see, you'll eventually get fuel to come up, but it doesn't stay consistent. So now I lost it again. So it almost seems like there's something stopping the fuel coming. Not engine side. Sorry about the siren in the background. Somebody won't pull over, I guess. So it's not on the engine side. It's actually on, like, from this to the fuel tank. I think there's some kind of resistance, some kind of reason why it's not getting fuel. So I ran by West Marine. It's an actual store here that's just for boats. Got a bunch of boat stuff inside. Pretty freaking dope. Grabbed a few things that I know that I need. This is the oil that is for the outboard stern drive. I need to do an oil change on that. That's one thing that I know I need to do. This is the fuel and water separating filter. That's another thing that I know that I need to do. And then also I got another pair of these motor flusher. They call these muffs. I got a new pair because the pair that came with the boat, they're a little old and kind of dry rotted. So there's some cracks and stuff in it. So whenever you have this on there, this leaks a lot. So I grabbed a new pair so we can go ahead and start it outside of the water. That you need this to start it outside of the water to supply water to the motor, which we're going to do that right now because I want to see how it's running now that we have it back out of the water. I also grabbed one of these little wedges. I don't know exactly what this is called, but I got a new one because when I was loading up the boat, I was doing it by hand and I kind of pulled it up a little hot, bro. It came in freaking quick, and the little bumper right here, the little V-shaped bumper, I ended up cracking one side of it off. So they didn't have one exactly like this. They had this one though. So that is going to be to replace that, in which we'll do that later. It's not really top of the priority list right now, but I would like to start the boat and see how it's running right here. Use our new pair of muffs. Battery is dead. I sure wish I had this with me when we were out on the lake. All right, on. You see, now it died and this thing is completely out of fuel inside of the hose. So now I need to go ahead and pump it once again. So what I'm going to do different this time is have the gas cap open. So this thing actually seals like watertight. So what I'm thinking potentially is maybe the vent on this, in which I think that's this. I think. There's probably a hose that goes to the fuel cell and comes up right here as a vent. But I think maybe the vent is clogged or something,
because whenever I was filling this doesn't, like, it overflows. Like, you have to fill it slowly, otherwise it overflows and goes all over the place, which would tell me that the vent is clogged because it's trying to, the air is trying to escape out from here at the same time the gas is trying to go in. So maybe that's what's happening. There's no vent and it's creating pressure inside of there, and it's really difficult for this thing to suck fuel. Maybe, I don't know, let's give that a shot. So with this open, I'm gonna go ahead and try to start it again, and let's see if it stays alive a little longer. Still died, and the prime ball is completely full of fuel this time. Alright, so yeah, every time I pump it, it'll start for a few moments and then it just dies, you know what I'm saying? So it does seem to me like it is not getting fuel. Even though, well, now the pump ball is actually extremely hard. So if I pump it right now, it's really difficult to pump because obviously there's pressure. And then also, look here, the carburetor right in the center is leaking fuel all over the place. So oh, that sounded terrible. And goodbye. All right, so this is just going to continue being a problem. I don't think that there's going to be any easy fix to this, but yeah, whenever you pump this thing up, you see that carburetor dripping. It's just dumping fuel out. That center carburetor is the only one I see doing it, though this top one, it does have a little drip that comes off of it, so I think it's probably leaking as well. Now that could be a couple of things, either the needle and seat, it could be just shot. The rubber part inside of there could be cracked from just being old. The ethanol inside of fuel will break that kind of stuff down over time. Or it could be the float inside of there. The float could either be stuck or it could be kind of disintegrated. So the float is going to be like a box, basically, that's like plastic that just holds air in it. So it floats to the top and it stops allowing the bowl to fill with fuel. Whenever it gets full, that float will float to the top. That's why it's called a float. And then it'll shut off the fuel supply so that it doesn't overflow. That is clearly overflowing. Those floats can either get stuck to where it doesn't shut off the fuel supply, or they can kind of disintegrate and actually fill up the inside of that plastic little box thing with fuel itself, to where it never floats up. It's no longer a pocket of air, it's a pocket of fuel, you know? Either way, that would need to be replaced. So if we're going to tear into this, I really need to just rebuild all three carburetors and just call it done. Because if one's having problems, I guarantee you the other two are going to eventually catch up, you know? I don't know exactly which carburetors these are. They do have different ones. So I kind of want to get them out. Oh, look at that. There's bang marks on the carburetor. Or it looks like somebody was under the impression the float was getting stuck and banging on it to unstick it. Here's a sign of problems that were known about. What the hell, Tom? What the hell? Yeah, I think the carburetors are definitely gonna need to be rebuilt. So it was kind of doing this before we even left to the lake. And I was under the impression that I just needed to put some hose clamps on that fuel line just to tighten it, because I was thinking that it was just sucking in air. You know what I'm saying? I honestly thought that that was gonna fix, or at least make it better. It was doing this before we went to the lake, like I said, but it wasn't as bad. So it got worse. So yeah, I need to go through the whole entire fuel system on this. I stopped at a boat mechanic here locally, and surprisingly, when I looked it up, there's actually quite a few of them. But the guy that I talked to, let me tell you, I've only gotten this one opinion, but the guy that I talked to said on these older 2 cycles that you ought to just replace, in which I believe him, you ought to replace the fuel pump, all of the fuel lines, clean out the fuel tank. If there's a fuel filter, then obviously do the fuel filter as well. And he recommends rebuilding all 3 carburetors, because on these older boats, it needs all of that, you know, especially whenever you don't know the condition of it. If you're having problems with one aspect of the fuel system, you ought to just go ahead and replace all of it. So I'm with him on that, but I did ask him for a quote, and he quoted me $1,800, bro, which is more than what I paid for the boat in the first place. So, besides, you guys already know, it's going to be a learning experience for me. I'm going to want to do all this stuff to the boat myself and get it running good before we ever take it out on a body of water again, because I don't want to get stuck. Well, while we still had a lot of fun, it would be a lot more fun if we're able to start the boat and actually leave on our own without having to find somebody to tow us in, you know what I'm saying? So I was gonna tear all into this thing, man. I'd really like to make some progress on it and actually do something today to it, other than just take the cover off and poke at it. But if I'm being honest with you, I've done a little bit of research so far, and it seems to me like it's gonna be a little difficult to find parts. Not like, I mean, to be straight up with you, they have stuff on Amazon, they have stuff on eBay, but I want to make sure that I'm getting the right stuff. So I do have a book on this engine, and inside of that book it shows you how to figure out exactly what carburetors you have, like how to identify them. I need to do that. I need to make sure that I'm ordering the correct parts, and I'd also like to get a fuel pump for it, because why not? We're having fuel issues. I may as well just replace it all. So I want to do the lines. I want to do the rebuild kits on the carburetor, replace the fuel pump, just make sure it's all new so we're not dead on the water ever again. And I believe this is the fuel pump, but looking it up, it shows different pictures of different things. So long story short, I don't want to tear that thing all apart and just have the pieces, nuts and bolts and screws and just pieces just laying all over the place. And I mean, I'd keep it organized, but I don't want to tear it all apart unless I'm ready to actually be able to put it back together. So it's fresh in my mind. I don't want to tear it apart and be a month later before I'm putting it back together. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it the way it is for the time being. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Peace, and I'll see you guys on the next one.